Assalamu alaikum. My name's Naman. This is the first in a series of documentaries where we'll be following the Radio Islam team on Voice of Africa Radio 94.3 FM. Each program has a dedicated team of members that help make it happen. Let's meet Sahib. Sahib, you are the technical wizard, as we hear time and time again in various programs. What does it involve?
Well, what I do is I kind of look after what's called the sound desk, so I control all the microphones, make sure that all the levels are fine and that you're not hearing everyone too loud and stuff, and I make sure that anything that we play, so CDs or recordings that we've done are all ready to play.
Right. Of course, it's a live program, so your role also involves taking care of mishaps that may happen as the program goes out live.
Yeah. So what I try to do is, if there's any problems, I try and make sure that all the microphones are fine. So if you're hearing our guest quite far away, I'll be there to tell the guest to come forward a bit to the microphone or increase their volume so they don't have to disturb their.
Me inside to the studio.
Three, two, one.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Thank you for tuning in to 94.3 FM, Voice of Africa Radio. I am your host, Maulana Azhar, for the next hour, presenting the show to you from our London studios with the technical assistance of Sahib. This is our Sunday Islam Hour, brought to you by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. The topic of tonight's program is on the advent of the promised Messiah, al-Islam. And to talk to us on this subject, we have invited to our studios, all the way from the United States of America, Maulana Azhar Hanif Sahib from the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. Without further ado, let me welcome our guest. Assalamu alaikum, Murabi Sahib. It is a great honour and pleasure of ours to have you on our program tonight.
Wa alaikum assalam. Indeed, it's also a pleasure, and as you say, an honour to be here with you in this very humble studio, but to a much wider audience who's listening.
Murabi Sahib, it has been a tradition of ours now for the past 2 years now. Every time we have a guest on the program, we ask them to give a brief introduction to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community for some of our new listeners. So if you wouldn't mind beginning our program with a brief introduction to the Jamaat.
Yes, the movement is worldwide, and it's founded in over 193 countries. However, it has a very, very humble beginning in a small village in the village of Qadian, India. The founder's name was Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad al-Islam, peace be upon him. And he launched this movement back in 1889. So you can see it's over 120 some odd years old. But still, that is just the beginning of the message. The message is one of the Messiah who's been awaited by all of religious communities in the world. And he made the claim, amongst, of course, so many claimants, but he showed those signs and he fulfilled the prophecies of the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, etc. And we believe he is an awaited Messiah and Mahdi for this day and age, and he has launched this community called the Ahmadiyya Movement in Islam since that time. So we are part of that community.
Thank you very much for that, Murabi Sahib. We know that I've just introduced to our guests that you are from the United States of America. So I was going to ask you, what is your actual background and involvement with the Ahmadiyya Muslim community?
I am a missionary of the community. There's a dual role. Within the community, I am an imam, one who takes care of the needs of the community itself in terms of their educational and moral training. But I'm also part of that mission, so to speak, of the Messiah of this age, to spread this message to the four corners of the earth. And by God's earth, this is a grand scheme of training missionaries in our center. I went to Lahore, Pakistan, spent 6 years there in training, along with many other foreign students from all across the world. We train, and then we'll send forth to countries under the auspices of our Khalifa, the head of our community. He sends us places, and we become missionaries in those lands. I am in the USA, and I'm on that preaching mission to bring the message of Islam and Ahmadiyya to all the Americans.
Thank you for that, Roberto. And whereabouts in America are you actually based?
At this time, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, which is roughly south of Chicago, Illinois, a much more well-known city in the country, in the Midwest of the country.
And another question I think some of our listeners will probably want to know is, you've come all the way from America, surely you haven't just come here for our humble radio program. So what are you actually doing here? I mean, if you wouldn't mind explaining that to our listeners.
Of course, at this moment I am here for this humble radio program, and it's not so humble as I said. The audience is vast and wide, spanning continents. But I have come here for a much greater purpose, which was to attend the International Conference, which we have every single year. It is hosted here in London because our Khalifa, the head of our community, is based here in London. So with that in mind, members from around the world come to join him and the other members in an international conference where we are praying together, we are worshiping, fellowship, learning about the Quran, the Islamiyat, etc. And this is a blessed gathering, so it's like going around the fire. We're the mosque that we cannot help ourselves. We just are attracted to the fire, and we just love to immerse ourselves in it and be blessed by it.
Now, this event, just Jalsa Salana, takes place every year, so something our listeners probably won't know that, but it is, like I said, you said, an international event. This particular one holds special importance because the Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is based here in London. Now, I think there was something like 26,000 odd people that actually attended the event, and these events take place all around the world successively, don't they?
Yes, they do. We had our a similar event, our United States gathering, the Jalsa Salana in the United States. That was back in June. They'll have theirs in Germany in a few weeks. Across the globe, you see these on a rolling basis, these gatherings. And the whole purpose is to keep us connected. And the beauty of it is the one unique feature of this gathering. No matter where you go, what country, what language, what culture there is, there's this unifying factor. You see a similar pattern in all of them, and it awakens in you your spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood. It makes you realize how great this whole community is, founded by the Messiah of this age, to unify and to gather mankind under one fold and one faith and one spirit.
And you also, quite fortunately, I think you had the honour of actually speaking at this particular Jalsa Salana. How did that feel? Is it the first time you've actually spoken at this international event?
Yes, it's a humbling experience. I already mentioned myself, so you have taken the advantage of putting me on the spot here and asking for my feedback on this. But truly, to stand in front of thousands of people, you would be intimidated. But when there are 1,000 brothers and sisters, you feel energized and inspired by just seeing their faces, because they're smiling at you, they're praying for you, they're encouraging you. So although it was my first time, I felt comfortable in front of my family. It wasn't intimidating at all, surprisingly enough.
Excellent. Rabbi, I'm going to ask you a somewhat personal question. What is your actual ethnicity? Because obviously our listeners, you have quite a strong American accent. So I mean, from that accent, for us here in, I suppose, the UK, we won't be able to tell where exactly you're actually from. So what's your actual ethnic origin, so to speak?
Yes. Well, I've been here 2 weeks trying to modulate my voice as a British accent, but I guess I failed totally. Yes, I am born and raised in the United States, in the New York City area. My parents, they were born and raised in the States, so I am full-blooded American, African-American, as you would say, so I am linked to the continent in that sense, but my nation is America, so this is my background.
And have you always been an Ahmadi Muslim, or were you born an Ahmadi?
By God's grace and God's mercy. My parents, in 1948, they joined this community as a very young couple. And all of my brothers and sisters, we are a family of about 8. We were born into the community.
MashaAllah. Thank you very much for that, Rabbi Saib. The format of our program has been to allow our listeners to have an interactive input into our discussion. And tonight's program is all about the advent of the promised Messiah, alayhi salam. Our listeners may wish to ask you questions and may have an opinion that may generate further conversation. As always, I will continue to invite them to text, call or email us on our program, and we will do our best to read out as many of those questions as we can. So listeners can text our program on 07961 573 883. That number for you once again is 07961 573 883. Or if you'd like to call our studio, we shall be opening the phone lines in about 15 minutes time. It's 0208 180 2523. That's 0208 180 2523. Finally, if you are listening online, you can always email us, which is, the email address is islam@voiceofafricaradio.com. That's islam@voiceofafricaradio.com. And Rabbi Saib, we're just going to take a very short break now, and when we're back from this break, we'll continue with our topic.